Hopefully everyone had a good coffee break. So yeah, I'm really excited that I'm coming up here and talking about full funnel after we had a great panel on performance and branding, because that's a lot of what we're going to be discussing, so carrying that thread through. But first of all, really, Steve, appreciate the introduction, but a little bit more about Ferrero and myself. So typically when I tell people that I work at Ferrero, they say, oh, Ferrero Rocher. And yes, that is one of the wonderful brands in our portfolio, but not the only brand in our portfolio. So as Steve mentioned, we have iconic world-renowned brands such as Nutella, Kinder, Ferrero Rocher, and Tic Tac. Also, through recent acquisitions, we now represent iconic American brands like Butterfinger, Baby Ruth, 100 Grand, Keebler, and Famous Amos. We are, in fact, the third largest confectionery company in the world and the fastest growing in North America. We have 23 commercial and industrial locations in North America and growing, and over 5,400 employees. Now, not only are we the fastest growing, but we're still owned by the same family that started the brand in Alba, Italy in 1946, and we still continue to represent the Ferrero values and traditions. Now, as for myself, I'm a longtime agency vet turned client. I spent over 15 years in the agency industry, leading really well-known brands such as McDonald's, L'Oreal, and Google. I started in my role at Ferrero at the beginning of the year, leading media and marketing services. That means I oversee our paid media, our business intelligence, and consumer insights. But really, marketing services is about connecting across our cross-functional ways of working, improving our ways of working across teams, driving our digital transformation, and ultimately creating enhanced consumer experiences that drive our business ambitions. So, speaking about consumer experiences, I really can't talk about full funnel without showing one slide with a marketing funnel on there. But as all of you know, the marketing funnel of yesterday is dead. Right? This is no longer the way in this highly digital, highly mobile environment, the way that consumers are experiencing brands, whether it's brand or performance. I was recently talking to our global head of premium chocolates about this exact topic. And we were talking about what is the right interpretation of the marketing funnel today. Is it a journey? Is it a game of chutes and ladders? And in a very astute and very Italian way, he said, Danielle, the marketing funnel is a bowl of spaghetti. But it's true, right? You know, consumers are mixed up with different brands and different experiences. You don't know where their journey starts or ends or where they're engaging with you. This is also the reason why retail media networks and retailers are becoming increasingly more important as we think about branding and marketing. Because in this highly digital and highly mobile environment, the data that retailers have, not only about shopping behaviors, but also about brand building, can be increasingly useful and important as we think about building our brands and driving people to purchase. Okay, so we're gonna talk about retail media. But what is retail media? I bet if I polled the room, I would get many different responses to this question. Is it search and display? Is it video? Is it programmatic? Is it influencer? Is it social? So of course, I did what any good marketer does when they need to answer a question. I turned to ChatGPT. So I asked, what is retail media? And ChatGPT told me it's using retailers' digital and physical properties, such as websites and apps, etc. Easy enough, right? So I know that Twitch was purchased by Amazon. So is Twitch retail media? Well, ChatGPT says no, because the primary goal of retail media is to drive product sales. Okay, so if it's about driving product sales more than ownership, we at Ferrero use Micmac on our social to make our social assets more shoppable. So therefore, is Micmac retail media? ChatGPT says, yes, it operates within the realm of retail media, whatever that means. However, Micmac is not owned by any retailer. So now, if we're taking the guardrails off and social is retail media, then is TikTok retail media? Okay, no, I've gone too far. However, we know that TikTok is releasing TikTok Shop. So is TikTok Shop retail media? ChatGPT says yes. Confused yet? I know that I was. So unfortunately, AI cannot solve the challenge of defining what retail media is. So we at Ferrero determined that we had to sit down and define it for ourselves. Because if we were going to build out our retail media and e-commerce strategy and start thinking about it for conversion and for brand building, we first had to be speaking the same language. So for us, the core retail media is on-site search and display. We know that this not only helps contribute to our customer relationships by placing dollars with our customer partners, but it helps to drive our e-commerce goals because generally it's helping to convert sales through a digital purchase. Now, as we pull the lens further out and start to think about the expansion opportunities in retail media and e-commerce, that's where we really had to define things. For us, retail media is any media dollars that we're giving to a customer partner. That could include brand media. So that could be video, that could be social, that could be influencer, digital out of home, or leveraging their first-party data for audience targeting. On the other side, on e-commerce, which is not the main topic of today, but I think it's important in the definition, for us, e-commerce is any media activation that's helping to drive an online sale. So I mentioned, for example, Micmac earlier, or adding QR codes to video, or any of the shoppable formats that are starting to be available within the marketplace. We know that this can help to drive online conversions, but isn't necessarily giving dollars to a specific customer partner. All right, so now that we understand what retail media is, for us, we had to start to understand where does it sit within our internal ecosystem. Because like many CPGs or FMCGs, we've got different teams that are focused on different areas of the business, right? Our brand teams are thinking about driving brand awareness, relevance, and ultimately brand penetration. Our shopper team is focused on influencing consumer decisions at the point of purchase. Our trade teams are very invested in those retailer relationships and driving customer negotiations and ultimately performance. And our e-commerce team is looking to increase our digital commerce channels as we see a lot of headroom and opportunity in that area. The issue is retail media can do all of these things. So for us at Ferrero, it's about deep collaboration across all the functions, working together with brand, sales, trade marketing, shopper, e-commerce, and really media and marketing services being the glue that can help connect all the dots across these different teams. So I'm going to share with you today a couple of examples of where our internal collaboration across teams, as well as deep partnership, as Jason talked about earlier, partnership is so important with our customer partners, have enabled us to win in most important seasons across our portfolio of brands with a number of different customer partners. So it's September, which means we're in Halloween season, and anyone who works in the candy business knows Halloween is our Super Bowl. And not being the largest player in the US, it's really important for us to win the Halloween season, but make sure that we're effectively and efficiently spending our media dollars. That's why we partnered with Walmart Connect to leverage their wealth of first-party data to strategically target both in-market and lapsed purchasers during the Halloween time period. And we did that both on-site, but also leveraging their data off-site to extend our reach. We supported this core of our media activation with some high-impact placements on Walmart.com and on app, as well as a very efficient search campaign to help capture and convert that demand, as well as, of course, a strong in-store presence as well. In addition, we partnered with Walmart Connect on an experiential activation called their Spooky Fleet, where we had branding presence on these vans that visited 5 notable Walmart stores and distributed over 15,000 samples of our product. All in all, not only did our activation drive, especially our digital activation, drive tremendous return on ad spend, but we saw a significant increase in new buyers to our product portfolio. Now, looking at Ferrero Rocher, it's the definitive symbol of celebration for the seasons, but especially for the holiday season. And therefore, we wanted to partner with Amazon Ads to put together a full funnel campaign that would not only drive purchase intent, but drive awareness and consideration of our product during this very important season. We leaned heavily into Amazon's STV and OLV offerings to complement our linear TV and FEP buys. And we were able to make our ads shoppable with shoppable overlays that would drive people to our Ferrero Rocher Amazon branded store. We complemented this strong video plan with display and search media that would, again, reinforce our brand message and help drive to conversion. What we saw last holiday season was not only did we have a significant increase in year-over-year sales, but we saw a really strong increase in new-to-brand shoppers, well above the category benchmark. And when we looked at our brand studies, we saw that those that were exposed to our campaign also drove increases in brand awareness and brand preference, which is super important during the holiday season. And finally, Easter is really important to the Kinder portfolio of products and also to Target. So again, leaning into our retail partners and their wealth of data, we worked with Roundel to really understand the consumer journey during this time period and insert our brand at notable moments of relevance. Whether that's someone browsing on Pinterest for a holiday Easter basket inspiration, to searching online for a chocolate candy, to going into store to pick up something quick for their kids, or looking on app for deals. At every digital, mobile, and in-store touchpoint, we wanted to make sure that our brand was present and relevant. And what we found is as we moved from this more conversion driving to an omni-channel full funnel approach, not only did we increase our IROAS, meaning the conversions that we were driving in e-commerce, but we actually saw a strong increase in ROAS, meaning that our online activations were helping to drive brick and mortar sales. So we've talked quite a bit about measurement. I've thrown out a lot of different stats in these case studies. The reality is, while the retail media landscape is rapidly evolving and changing, so is retail media measurement. And there isn't one solution, there isn't a standard, it's a lot about testing and learning. However, as my team knows, because I say it day in and day out, it's really important that we're thinking about how our media and marketing activations are not only driving media metrics, but business metrics. And that's why we're really pushing our partners to think about moving from e-commerce conversion, which we were really focused on several years ago, into full funnel attribution, and ultimately into incrementality. Because at the end of the day, as retailers are coming to us and asking for more and more dollars to be spent on their platforms, if we can prove that the dollars we're spending on retail media networks are driving sales that wouldn't have otherwise occurred if we didn't spend those dollars, not only is that going to open the door to more budget, but it's going to open the door to deeper customer relationships and ultimately better business performance. So with that, thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Danielle, thank you so much. Let's have some questions from the audience. Yep.
Yeah, go ahead. That was awesome. Thank you. Jay Seaton from Attain. How are you dealing with what I imagine is the most common issue within this space is fragmentation? And if that's not your most common issue, what is and how are you solving for it?
Yeah, so I'm going to assume when you talk about fragmentation, you're thinking about the fact that as you go up the funnel, there's going to be overlap between what you might do with a retail media partner and what you might do. Okay, just making sure I'm interpreting the question correctly. Yeah, it's definitely a concern, right? As retailers are coming to us and saying, hey, we can activate on Pinterest, we can activate on Meta, we can activate CTV, and we know that we're running national buys as well. It's something that we have to strategically think about. There's a couple of things we do. First, as we're launching new products and building ACV, sometimes it makes sense to do that brand building with a specific customer because the product isn't nationally available in all retailers yet. So for example, we just recently launched Tic Tac Chewy. Go out in stores and buy it. It's really awesome. It's one of our, biggest innovations. But as we're continuing to reset in retailer stores, being able to lean in and leverage some branding, whether it's in social or in other assets, with those partners where the product is available while it becomes nationally distributed, that's one thing that helps with the fragmentation. But to fully answer your question, it's really just about deep collaboration and coordination across all of our partners with our agency partners, looking at what are the white spaces that retailers can help to fill so that we're not just reaching the same people over and over, but hopefully reaching a different audience, a new audience that maybe is slightly different from what we're doing in national media.
Okay, back here.
Hi, Ryan Spicer, Atmosphere. A question for you. You talk about performance, show those incredible stats. Congratulations. It's tremendously impressive and incremental, reaching new audiences. My question for you is understanding a little more, like, how do you actually measure that? Like, what tools are you employing? And more specifically, for those of us who want to show you new opportunities, incremental audiences, how do you integrate into that as a publisher, as a media resource, to align in a way that works for you?
Yeah. So as the previous panel talked about, I mean, MMM is still the gold standard, right? Because you're really able to understand the incrementality and that true ROI. But the problem with MMM is the fact that it's really delayed, it's looking back, it's not going to enable you to optimize in real time. A lot of what I showed are in these case studies are measurement solutions that we've worked with the retailer partners on. So I recognize that sometimes it's sort of the grading the own homework, but at the same time, they are continuing to evolve their practices, and we're asking all the time about being able to measure incrementality. So it's a lot of working with them in those measurement solutions. We also use syndicated partners, right? We've done Kantar brand lift across our studies. We've used other types of brand lift studies in our media measurement. So there's a lot of different tools that we're using, but I think particularly with retail media, it's about partnering with the retailers to understand what's available, to test, and to learn from that.
Okay, I'm coming. Let's see.
Doug Cordova, Front Media. As you opened up, you mentioned how well you're known for one specific brand, but you represent a multitude of brands. So when you're breaking down budgets and allocating, planning, and everything, how do you show support for the lesser-known brands while also not losing market share for what you're known for?
Yeah, so I think what's interesting is when I say I work at Ferrero, it's associated with Ferrero Rocher because that's the name on the door. But if I told you I work for Nutella, or I work for Kinder, or I work for, Butterfinger, you know all of those brands. So we're in this interesting space where our brands are known, but being known as part of the portfolio. And some of that is because we're really well known in Europe, but we're bringing a lot of the European brands here into the US, like Kinder. If you went to Europe, you'd see 30 different Kinder products. Here we have 3 right now and growing, right? Or through acquisitions, the brands that we have used to be owned by other companies. So that's just, I'm realizing I'm not fully answering your question, but to start, for us, it's about people know our brands, but starting to understand that the brands are part of a portfolio. But in terms of budget allocation, a lot of things go into it, right? We have to look at, are there innovations that are coming to any of those brands this year? I mentioned Tic Tac Chewy being a big innovation, so obviously we're putting budget behind that. Winning in the seasons is super important. So you have to think about the consumption habits, right? And supporting the different brands in the moments that make sense for consumption. Some of our brands like Nutella and Rocher are really strong around the holidays. Our mainstream chocolate brands are obviously king when it comes to Halloween. And then I think the rest of the year, it's thinking about what are the tentpole moments we want to lean into. Similar to what Jason talked about, we're thinking about emerging our brands into culture and being more relevant. So all of those things are playing into how we're making our budgeting decisions.
One more back here.
Hey, how are you? Joseph Dressler, Adforum. First of all, Nutella, yum, right? Is there anything else in this week? Right. In the retail media side, you talked about incrementality, right, which is the ultimate measurement of, am I spending more money to get more sales? And that's been a real problem in the whole retail media space because you're going after consumers mostly who already buy your products. So I get that. Are you getting any reports from retailers as I talk to them in a different capacity? They're learning about DSPs not providing the retailer as much information on reach and frequency control. And so what they're seeing is their known audiences they're hitting too often, which is starting to decrease the effectiveness on behalf of your dollars, more importantly. And I was curious if that information was getting passed down yet to CPGs, and if not, do you ever look at reach and frequency as a guideline before you get to incrementality?
Yeah, it's a really great question. Again, I was joking with someone earlier. I feel like my information that I'm providing in the retail media networks is probably already outdated at this point because it's changing so rapidly. I think reach and frequency is something that we're starting to think about, to also go to the question about overlap and cannibalization. You know, there are a lot of opportunities to execute both retail media and branding media within the same DSP ecosystem, right? Whether you're working with Trade Desk, you're working on the Amazon DSP. So I will say it's not something that we've gone really far into, but certainly something that we're starting to think about to make sure that all of these things are working in harmony and we're not just hitting people over and over again. But I would say for what we've been doing from a DSP standpoint right now is still more in the mid to lower funnel, right? More of the examples I showed is how we're testing branding media on social, we're testing branding media in video, and we think about DSP as like being able to use banner assets to reinforce the message. So we haven't gotten to a reach frequency play there yet, at least for us, because we're still looking more on the return on ad spend for those and probably measuring it against more performance metrics. But yes, as this continues to grow, as we think about, who knows, video assets being available within DSPs, I think looking at both reach and frequency as well as return on ad spend and incrementality are going to be important to make sure that, to the panel earlier, we're driving brand and performance.
Danielle has given us tons to talk about in the RMN roundtable this morning. That'll come at the end of the morning, and we'll continue this discussion. Danielle, thank you so much.
Thank you.